I'm Chris McDonough, a retired homicide detective. I've interviewed thousands of people, from serial killers to ministers. Welcome to the interview room.
Possible GTA suspect there now, 4730 Crystal Springs Drive.
Welcome to the interview room, everybody.
Two males, no further
Time to take a seat. As always, coming to you from an undisclosed location. If you enjoy real crime and mystery, you've come to the right channel. At TIR, we follow the evidence wherever it takes us on a case. All parties are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. And all aliens are welcomed here. We only ask one thing. You keep it classy and factual. Thank you always to our mods, our members and subscribers. Without each of you, we can do nothing. Together, we can move mountains and bring justice for victims and families. We've got a great show for you. Tonight's guest, Regional Agent in charge of the Missing and Murdered Unit for the BIA, Justin M. Hooper. This is a great man, America, and he's a good friend. He and his team are doing amazing things for the Bureau of Indian Affairs. You're going to hear it firsthand this evening. So grateful to have Justin here with us. So without further ado, let's get into it. Justin, good evening.
Hey, Chris, how's it going?
How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. I'm good. You know, usually when
good.
cops end up on YouTube, it's not for a good reason. So it's a welcome change to be here under some good circumstances for once.
Well, we appreciate you being here, and we know that you guys are doing amazing things in your unit, and so we're gonna do a couple of things here. I kind of want to lay the groundwork for our listeners, right? We've taken out any kind of donations this evening because we don't want any conflict of interest or anything like that for BIA or anything, and so we're here to talk about the Missing and Murdered Unit, as well as the Indigenous people that you represent. You're Sioux, am I right?
Correct. Yep. Grew up on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in South Dakota. I'm an enrolled member of the Oglala Sioux Tribe, Oglala Lakota Nation.
Awesome. Yeah. So let's break this down a little bit. I'm gonna, tell us a little bit about your background. How did you get? Well, first of all, we just spent the last about the week together here, and we don't have to tell them where we are. But did you enjoy any of the training? Yeah, exactly. How did the training go? Cooper's amazing. Yes.
Kind of lost you for a second, Chris, but I think I picked up what you said. Yeah, it was phenomenal training. Got a lot out of it. The team really enjoyed it. we had a lot of dialogue after hours about the training. I could tell the group was really excited about it.
Awesome.
Big
Awesome.
shout out to Mozelle. She was a big hit this week too.
Well, I'm just a small chip in a very large bag. That's how it always rolls, right?
That's right.
So let's tell everybody a little bit about your background. How did you get into doing what you were doing and your role in the MMU?
Sure. So, like I said, I grew up on Pine Ridge. I actually bounced back and forth between Nebraska and Pine Ridge. My dad's family was from Nebraska. My mom's family was from the res. My stepdad was in law enforcement. He spent a lot of years in law enforcement and ultimately retired as the captain of internal affairs for the Oglala Sioux Tribe when I was in high school. And I think, when you and I have discussed this, and I think law enforcement is a calling. It truly is. Maybe you don't understand it when you're younger. I didn't right away, at least. So I went to college and majored in environmental science and engineering, but I always had this draw towards law enforcement. So when I was 23, I dove right in, got into law enforcement. Started as a tribal officer in Pine Ridge, and then moved and was a deputy sheriff and a city police officer and a detective for a while. I kind of knew from the moment I got into law enforcement that investigations is where my heart was. I just enjoyed doing investigations more than the patrol work. I mean, it was, hats off to the guys out there working the beats and stuff. Patrol work is tough, and that's the backbone of all of law enforcement is patrol work. That's where a lot of our good intel comes from and our knowledge. So, but I just decided when I was about 28, 29. And the next about 10 years working violent crimes and then drugs. I was fortunate to be able to go back home, work that area.
Now, where's home? What reservation were you raised on?
Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, the Oglala Sioux Tribe, which is in southwest South Dakota, just east of the Black Hills. Beautiful little area there. Kind of isolated, like a lot of our reservations, especially in the north there, but it'll always be home for me. So,
absolutely. So, I don't know if it's you or me, but back up. And so let's, your role now and break down some of the misunderstanding about Operation Lady Justice and all of that stuff. How is this, to break that down a little bit, Justin, for folks?
Sure. So 2019, there was an executive order which created Operation Lady Justice. And the whole purpose of Operation Lady Justice was to, I think, address missing and murdered Indigenous people. We realized, the Department of Justice realized, everyone kind of in federal law enforcement knew that there was an issue. There was a lot of natives that were going missing, a lot of unsolved homicides, both in Indian country and off Indian country. And there's a lot of jurisdictional issues when it comes to law enforcement in Indian country. And so out of Operation Lady Justice came at first the cold case unit, what eventually became the missing and murdered unit, to address a lot of those issues and to kind of try to be a gap, from the jurisdiction to non-jurisdictional side of these cases and to provide some resources and especially to provide some investigators that would be able to work some of these cases and then work with, not even if we're not working directly, but indirectly work with the agencies that are working these cases and offer them resources and training and stuff to help address this issue.
Yeah. So how big is the problem?
It's big. And to be frank, we don't fully grasp how big it is. We know we don't accurately have an exact count of how many missing and unsolved murders there are, both Indian country and off Indian country. So, that's part of the issue. And I'll give a little shout out to the FBI on here. They've done some great work, especially in New Mexico, on putting together a database for missing persons. But even with that, we only know what's reported. So part of the problem is a lot of our relatives, a lot of our friends, a lot of our community members will, move off the reservation and disappear. And if no one reports them missing, they can disappear for decades and no one will know. So, that was one of the issues that we identified early on, was the fact that we had so many of those cases. And, so it's never been the chore for accurately accounting how many missing and murder we have has been, pretty tough.
Yeah, there's a lot of estimates, but they're not concrete numbers. I think,
Exactly.
when I checked the BIA website and the DOJ website, there's like 1,500 estimate here in the U.S. And then I know the Canadian side
Yeah.
has.
And I believe that's just women. That's not even accounting men, if I'm not
Oh,
mistaken.
wow. I did
So,
not
yeah.
know that piece.
Yep.
Wow.
And the same, Alaska Natives, the numbers are pretty shocking, especially when you consider how small a percentage of the total population us Natives make.
Wow. And so for the first time in history, your team was put together consisting only of Native Americans, right? I mean, this is like a historical event that's taken place here.
Yeah. Everyone on our team right now is Native. Everyone on our team, is an enrolled member of a federally recognized tribe. But that's kind of the nature of the Bureau of Indian Affairs. We have Indian preference for our hiring, and so most of our employees are, not all, but most of the employees in the Bureau of Indian Affairs are Native people.
Awesome. Which leads me into the next question. Tell us a little bit about the BIA.
Sure. So the Bureau of Indian Affairs has been around for a long time. The origins of the BIA are not so great, especially if you talk to a lot of the tribal communities. But the law enforcement portion of the BIA started about 1869, and the purpose was to create a police force that was, of the people, for the people, so to speak. And from there, we grew into some specialized units. We have drug enforcement, we have internal affairs, we have missing and murdered unit. Those are our specialized units. And then we also have major crimes investigators at all of our programs, 638 programs, where we have criminal investigations. Indian country is very unique. There are a couple different types of jurisdictions. In the places where we have exclusive jurisdiction, it's called Public Law 638. I couldn't tell you how many Public Law 638 tribes there are, but there are several. There's quite a few of them, and they tend to be bigger tribes. So we provide law enforcement services to a lot of the PL 638 tribes, patrol, dispatch, corrections, criminal investigations. And then we also have blended programs where we either have the patrol and correction side of it, or maybe just patrol, or maybe just corrections, or we have just criminal investigations, and the tribe has exercised self-governance and taken over part of the program. And then we have oversight of some of the other tribal law enforcement programs where they've exercised self-governance and they have control of all the programs. So we have a unique mission, the Bureau of Indian Affairs Office of Justice Service has. And then, like I said, within that, we have 3 specialized units, of which my unit is one of.
So are you under the umbrella of OJS?
Correct. Yep. We are part of the Office of Justice Services.
Okay. Interesting. And in total, let's dive into a little bit of your unit. First of all, tell me about your team. How did you guys all come together?
So, like I told you, we started off as a cold case unit, and then in 2020, under now Secretary Deb Haaland, we decided to really just focus on not just unsolved homicides, but also missing persons cases. So, we hired a new unit chief after that, and then several agents since then. And we were pretty fortunate. We had some really great applicants for these positions. I love my team. We have a phenomenal team. I cover right now from Anchorage to Michigan, a huge area. So naturally with that, comes the resource strain, trying to cover all of Indian country in those states. But I have a great team, and I can't say enough good things about them. They've worked some phenomenal cases, and they've done a great job of building relationships with departments off Indian country, especially to try to help us meet these objectives when it comes with these referrals that we're getting. But yeah, I have one agent in Alaska right now, one in Washington State, three in Montana, one in North Dakota, one in South Dakota, one in Minnesota, and we're going to be increasing pretty significantly here, almost doubling the size of our unit. Hopefully that continues. And I look to add, especially to Washington State, Montana, and the Dakotas. We really need more bodies there. We have a lot of referrals coming in from Washington State in particular. There's a lot of Native people in the state of Washington. There's a lot of Indian country in Washington. And for those of you who don't know, Indian country is a federal term. It's codified in the United States Code. So when we talk about Indian country, it's a legal definition term. So that's why we say it that way. But yeah, there's been, I think to date, 538 is a Monday, and I think we've had a couple since I was in the North region.
Okay, you froze up there just for a sec. You say that one more time. I don't want the audience to miss that point you just made. You froze right when you said it, to date, and then you froze. Go ahead.
Right. So as of Monday of last week, we had 538 referrals.
Wow.
And I know for a fact we've had at least one since then. I think we've had a couple more since then. As you're aware, Chris, I've been with you guys in training and locations unknown. But I think we're over 540 referrals just in the 2 years that we've really been operational. So it's good. I'm glad we get the referrals, but you can understand then the strain it puts on the limited staffing right now. We only have 18 agents in the whole unit, so
right.
The more folks we can get working with us, the better.
Yeah, and do you have counterparts in Canada by chance?
We don't. No.
So how are they addressing the issues?
So we've had a few referrals come from Canada to our unit, and unfortunately, when we get those, the only thing we can do is refer it back to Canadian law enforcement. We've had some interesting referrals come in. As I'm sure all of your listeners know, crime doesn't stop at some imaginary line. People go missing across imaginary lines all the time. Sometimes, a lot of times willingly, and that's a lot of what how our cases originate. And certainly, the United States and Canadian border is no different. And you have several reservations that are on the border, and those people are allowed to cross over because they have relatives on the other side of the national border too. So we've had some interesting referrals. That's probably about the best way I could sum it up right now without getting too detailed. But we've worked with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police on some of the referrals. We've worked with Windsor Police, law enforcement out of Quebec. I know I'm forgetting some. But we've started building up some relationships with some of our Canadian partners. That's an area actually I would like to grow those relationships with, and when we work with the FBI and stuff too, they have some relationships across the border as well. So yeah, some of these situations as they come up, we're having to reach out and build partnerships that we never really had before. Prior to this unit, we didn't really deal a whole lot with, international things, I guess, so to speak. We'd pass that off to our partners, but now we have those opportunities and we're able to have those conversations, and those are relationships that I think we'd like to grow in the future.
Awesome. Folks, if you're just joining with us tonight, I have regional agent in charge of the missing and murdered unit for the Indigenous missing and murdered women, Justin M. Hooper, with us tonight. He is a native Sioux from the tribe in South Dakota, and he is his team has been tasked through the Bureau of Indian Affairs to um, take this on, and by golly, I'll tell you, these guys are they're really smart. Let me start there, and they are doing amazing things. They're not going to go into. We're not going to go into details on what they're doing for obvious reasons, but they are making great progress. It is, sometimes, you just don't, fall on the top of a mountain, right? You have to climb, and they have been climbing mountains for quite some time. So let's talk about some of the background of the issues of MMIP.
So, Chris, as you know, Native people in general are victimized by violent crime at a higher rate than non-Indians. In fact, 80, almost over 84% of Native women and Alaska Native women have experienced or been victim of violent crime in their lifetime, with 56% of that being sexual violence. I mean, it's a huge issue in Indian country and Indian country law enforcement. And frankly, it's an issue we've been working on for decades. This isn't something that happened overnight. This isn't an issue that just popped up. Combine that with unfortunately substance abuse issues. Kind of a perfect storm of issues and has really become, thank God though, right, that it's become a focal point that people are talking about it now, because almost everyone in my unit is either related to someone or has a friend or knows of someone that is a victim of MMIP of some sort. So it's really talked about it. It just it was kind of the quiet secret that now at least is being is out there in those conversations. So it's violent crime in general is a problem, especially in Indian country and in Indigenous communities. But missing people on top of it, both men and women, and that's a point I really want to get across to your listeners. It's not just women; it's men as well. There are a lot of cases of unsolved homicides involving men and missing men as well that I don't want them to get lost in the discussion as well. So that's why we use the term MMIP, because it really is people, not just men.
Yeah, the native people.
One thing I wanted to point out. So the murder rate for American Indian women and Alaska Native women is 10 times higher than non-Indians. It's the third leading cause of death for Native women. It's a huge issue. It really is. And because we're such a small population compared to the rest of the ethnic groups, it flies under the radar.
Interesting. And folks, I am flagging some of these questions coming by for Justin. He's agreed to take some of these questions, and so let's what is the history in the past before they actually formed your unit? What was the history? How did things get taken care of?
That's a good question. So Indian country is kind of a hodgepodge of
yeah, you're buffering right now, so Don't worry about it. We'll pick it right back up. But yeah, your internet's buffering right now, but that's okay.
Okay. Yeah, I don't apologize to your listeners. I know my internet's not the greatest right now where I'm at.
You're good.
But yeah, so it's it depends really on your location, right? I mean, some tribes have their own criminal investigations unit, primary criminal investigations unit, but the biggest issue, anytime there's a homicide, it's going to get worked, right? Whether it's the FBI, the BIA, or the tribe, or the state, it's going to get worked. And we've got some, I don't want to denigrate any of those other law enforcement agencies out there. FBI has got some phenomenal investigators. We've got some phenomenal investigators in our major crimes unit. The tribes have some phenomenal investigators. A couple of my really good buddies are state investigators. There are phenomenal people out there working hard on these cases. But because of the jurisdictional issues, especially and particularly with the missing persons cases, a lot of times they just fly under the radar. They'll, we have our protocol within the BIA for, how we handle missing persons cases, and a lot of the tribes mirror what we do, or have something similar of their own. But, when those missing persons cases reach that reservation line, a lot of times that communication just dies. Cooperation with other law enforcement agencies just dies. And it's not, and I get it. Some of it's a resource issue. A lot of these police departments and sheriff's offices across the country are short-staffed. We're short-staffed. So we're all feeling the crunch. But these cases, tend to just, I guess, the reason for, searching for a missing person, looking for a missing person, investigating that missing person's case. And it's not just kind of is what it is. A lot of departments are having to, really, plug holes in dikes right now and are just doing everything they can to try to keep up. And, I wouldn't say anyone's doing a great job of it right now. We're all trying to just survive.
Well, the good news is BIA saw it and they said, let's do something here. Let's do something.
Exactly.
And I know both, presidents have given infusions. I know President Biden just recently signed some more, presidential orders to keep this thing moving. And you guys have just kind of restructured, but you've also, at the same time, you guys have been coming together and, really creating this dynamic that says, okay, we're now talking over here, we're talking over here, we're talking over here, and everybody's in the same room. And if I understand what you're saying, for years, that was a major problem because everything would go underneath and nobody would ever catch it, okay? And it would be like, okay, well, you guys have finally caught it, and now they put your unit together. And so really it's pretty new, but it's an amazing opportunity as well, with the right leadership, which you have. And of course, you being at the helm out in the field with your team. My understanding is you almost handpick some of the team that you've put in, but I don't know if that's accurate or not. I just heard that was a rumor.
Well, we're obviously we're allowed to recruit, and there were quite a few people that I knew when I came into the role, that I'd worked with either as agent when I was an agent working in the field, or I had heard from other people that like, hey, keep an eye on this person. He's doing really good things. He's got a lot of potential, or she's got a lot of potential. But we still have to go through the hiring process. People still have to apply. Whenever we have a vacancy, it goes up on USA Jobs, and people apply there. But we try to really pay attention during the hiring process and do a really good job of vetting, and not just fill for the sake of filling, which, staffing is tough. I won't lie. And I hope I hope the folks listening to the Secretary's office aren't going to beat me up about this, but we're doing the absolute best we can with the resources we have. But we have phenomenal people on our team. We have done a great job
and I second that. You guys, you have top-notch, really smart people. We did an exercise just the other day with Dr. Martin, or you guys did an exercise with Dr. Martin, and who's coming on the show next week, by the way. She's going to be, oh yeah, she's going to be a home run.
Yeah.
And I saw her in the chat earlier. But the fact that everybody has really come together now. So share with the audience where folks are located around the country when you say they're in, different states, but what tribes are they from?
So I have agents right now from Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe in South Dakota, from Choctaw, Muskogee. Hey, Dr. Martin. Some from Muskogee Creek Nation out of Oklahoma, Crow Tribe of Montana, a Blackfeet Tribe of Montana, Apache, Montana, Winnebago Tribe out of Nebraska. Oh, geez, put me on the spot. I don't want to leave anyone out.
I'm sorry.
No, that's
Navajo.
okay.
I know you had some Navajo folks because
we do down south. Yep. Yeah, in the South region, we have some agents from Navajo. We've got some folks from the Pueblos around Albuquerque that work in our unit, Isleta and Laguna Pueblo. Boy, what else? I mean, we have kind of wide
representations. I mean, and that's why I was so honored just to stand in front of you guys. I mean, the first time we met, it's been almost a year ago now, right? Yep. Up in North Dakota. Yep. And I was just like blown away because everybody was from everywhere. And it was so cool just to have everybody in the same room operating on the same cylinder. We've got 1,500 women. What are we going to do? Right. And it really does show the spirit that you guys project into the world. You're amazing human beings, And there were some folks from the Washington tribes. I remember I saw somebody just come.
Yep. Yes, I have one of our agents is Yakima from Yakima Tribe in Washington. And keep in mind, we're about half of what we think we're going to be probably a year or so from now. Once we get through all the hiring process and backgrounds, we anticipate that we are probably going to be, hopefully, God willing, we'll be at least double in size, within a year or so. Yeah, there's such a need, Chris. And then this is the first time, I've been in law enforcement for close to 20 years. Almost all of it exclusively in and around Indian country. And, our unit was the first of a kind. No one else had done this before. And we started from absolute scratch. We created something that didn't exist. And I hope, I think, and I feel good. I feel confident that we show that, we're worth supporting. We're worth funding, and we're doing great work. And I know that confidently. I can say that beyond a shadow of a doubt. We're doing phenomenal work out there. We don't get the attention because we're so small that others get, but that's fine. We prefer to just do the work. We don't need the glory. We don't need the attention. We understand that, for some agencies, they're fighting for their lives for funding and stuff. So when we get involved in a case, it is never about the glory of it. It's never about the attention for it. It is 100% victim-centered service. That's the motto we live by. Our unit chief, Marcelino Torsman, that's something he preaches, all the time. So when we developed this unit, we knew going on that had to be the mindset, and that had to be ingrained in the culture of our unit, was victim-centered service. So, that's what we strive for. And you and I've talked about, we don't do things like this often.
In fact, I had to beg you
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but you got permission. You ran it up the flagpole, and and folks, because Justin did do that. I mean, let's share this out to everybody, because really, these cases get solved because people get involved and they need
Absolutely.
the information. So let's talk about your intake process, and how that works.
Yeah, that's a great segue. So our intake process, we have our, uh, would there be a way to share our website, Chris, that has all the intake information with
You know
you?
what? Let me hang on. I'm going to have to go over here. I know it's in the link below, um, and on the channel. So let's see here. You can keep chatting away there, buddy, while I go looking for the.
So for those of you listening, it's under BIA.gov /service or MMU /missing and murdered unit. We take referrals via our website, via our email address, which is I believe it's OJS_MMU@BIA.gov. And then we have a 1-800 number, which I'm terrible about remembering phone numbers, so I apologize in advance, but it's on our website. We take referrals for cases that way. Now, we ask that when these referrals come in, that it be an Indian person, and again, keep in mind, Indian is a federal codified term that we use when talking about Native people who are members of federally recognized tribes. So it has to be an Indian person, and when you send that referral to us, please leave contact name, contact information, as much information as you can get in that referral. And so that goes to our program analyst who takes our intakes, logs. We log every intake, and it gets a referral number. And then based on the location for that referral, we will assign it to an agent. That doesn't mean we're going to take the case. Because of staffing and the nature of the work we do, we can't take every referral that comes in. We just physically cannot handle that many referrals. So what we'll do then is when we get a referral to our unit, it'll get assigned to an agent, and that agent will do an intake process. And part of that intake process is screening the case for reports, victimology, and whether or not we have jurisdiction, and whether or not if we don't have jurisdiction, the agency that does have jurisdiction is willing to participate in the investigation. So if we can meet certain factors, and the victimology is a huge part of it. That's something that we've learned the last couple of years that I think has really contributed to the success that we've had as a unit, is making sure that we're doing really good victimologies. The more information we can get, the better the chances of us staffing that case for actual investigation. So once we've made that decision that, yes, this is a case that we can work, yes, this is a case that we will work, then we'll open a case number and assign it to that agent. And then that agent will put together their case and present it to the unit, so that we can all come up with ideas, brainstorm, come up with avenues of investigation, things like that, to try to give us the best possible chance to solve it we can.
So I've got it up here, and you just mentioned what would you like to do. So, yep. And folks can go to BIA. Actually, the links below after this program today, you'll see it in there to get to this page. But you want to break this down. So viewer missing, murdered cases, submit a tip, report. It's all here, right, Justin? This is where everybody goes?
Yep, exactly. Yep. We have the tip 411 line. So if you want to be anonymous, you can submit a tip to our unit via tip 411. The information is on the webpage there. And it is anonymous. It can remain anonymous if you want it. If you don't want to be anonymous, that's fine. And that's good, because it makes it a little easier for us if we have someone that we can actually communicate with about information. But then we also have our 800 number and our email address as well.
And here are some of the cases. I mean, there are even children.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is, bear in mind, this is a fraction of the cases we know are out there. So we feature some of the cases that, and these aren't all cases that we're working. These are just cases that are out there, and the family members wanted their loved one's profile featured on our website. So again, if there's, if you're aware of a case, a missing person, unsolved homicide case involving a Native person, and you're a person that can give that authorization, you want their profile featured on our website, please reach out. We'd be more than happy to accommodate that and get that information on the website. There's some forms that have to be filled out, but again, if you reach out, we can get that process started.
Awesome. And then everybody, if you can share this out to folks that you feel need to see this information, as you can tell, Justin and his team and the BIA, they're doing work that it's really, the universe is on schedule here. There, for the first time ever, there's a question here is, do you have any statistics of MMIPs? But we kind of went over that, but hit it again. Looks like Princess just got here.
Right. So we know for a fact that we have about 1,500 missing and murdered Indigenous women. But we also know that that's a conservative estimate, probably a low number estimate. The reality of it is we don't have an accurate count. That's something that we're definitely working on. The FBI has done a great job, at least in New Mexico, in creating a website to track missing persons involving Indigenous people in the state of New Mexico. We worked with them. We partnered with them on that to get that going. And so did all the tribes here at Pueblos here in New Mexico. They did probably the first time I've ever seen that kind of collaboration on one project amongst all the stakeholders in Indian country in one state. And I know that the goal is to try to replicate that in other states going forward. And I think once we're able to do that, we'll have a more clear picture, I guess, on how many persons, missing persons, and unsolved homicide cases that we're looking at. But the reality of it is it's just such a hard number to define, I guess, because of all the different issues plaguing Indian country. I mean, and we've failed, I guess I'd say, as and I don't mean just us as in the BIA. I mean, in general, society has failed in keeping up with this. But there are a lot more conversations going on now, I can tell you, than there was when I was growing up, 20 years ago. So the fact that we're even talking about this now, I think, is a huge step forward and a lot of progress.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of the issues that you come across. First of all, you guys are developing more and more relationships with law enforcement in this, and that's crucial. Tell the audience why that's crucial.
So we've had multiple instances now where we've had cases, incidents referred to us, and I would love to go into specifics. There's a couple of them that just absolutely frustrate me, and I would love to talk to all of you about it, but because they're still open cases, I can't discuss it. But we've run into that. Right. Yep. And I know the bosses are listening, so I don't want to get myself in trouble. But we've run into some stonewalls where we've gotten referrals on incidents, and we've worked those as far as we possibly could. And then we cross that imaginary jurisdictional line, and we run out of jurisdiction, and we reach out to agencies in other locations, and it just, things die. The information dies both from them and to them. The connections are lost, and it doesn't, at least from our perspective, doesn't look like those instances or incidents are continue to be investigated. But we've also had some successes where we've done that, where we've built those relationships. We've had some folks that had gone missing from our reservations and ended up in more urban areas, and we were able to get a hold of detectives, investigators, and patrol officers in those places, and they located these people for us, and we were able to get them home, or at least get them in connection with their family, so that their family knew that they were okay. And we've had some I guess one case I know for sure we could talk about, Chris, Snohomish County Sheriff's Office in Washington had the remains of an unidentified man. And this was from a case from the 70s that showed up, and they began working it. And I don't want to go on the details of how they did their investigation, because frankly, I don't know the full story either. But I know for a fact that at one point they reached out to us, and we were able to use NamUs and identify some potential family members by using familial DNA. And we worked with the Snohomish County Sheriff's Office to eventually locate a family member and identify the remains of this person and get that person, reunited with his family. And it had been 50 years since he'd gone missing. So, we've had some successes, and especially in those places where we can reach across that jurisdictional line and develop those relationships. And it's something that. And I'll say, as an agency, the BI, we haven't always been the best at that either, right? So, when we came into this unit, that was priority number one, was establishing those relationships.
Yeah, but you know what, Justin, I'm going to pat you on the back here, and I know you don't like it, but I think it's necessary. You are the perfect front leader for this team, because you have that gift to break those barriers down. Just think about it. Look what you've done just in the tribal communities, right? You're respected by your team, by your teammates, okay? And
Sure.
You named off, every tribal group of people that you've got them all in the same room, and you're all in sync, okay? Now, if we can just get law enforcement, I'm going to say this, you don't have to say this, I will say this, because I'm from that other side of the coin. If we can just get them to listen to you, right, and then cross those lines together, those bridges, okay, you guys will continue to hit home runs. And unfortunately, and I think this, just a perfect example today, a civilian came in and they just found this little girl in Northern California who's been missing, but that was listening, okay? Yep. And I hope the agency was involved in that decision, but listening to some folks that had a skill set, and that's what you bring to the table. The BIA brings a lot of skill set to the table. And now it's just a matter of figuring out, okay, well, how do we continue to keep these puzzle pieces together on behalf of the victim? And you guys are the tip of the spear. And I think we need to remind our viewers, this is a brand new initiative. For the first time. How long have you guys been, in function here?
Operational, probably about 2 years. Maybe just a little over 2 years that we've actually been operational. When we started out with, I think we had around 10 agents to begin with, maybe a little bit more than that. And it was drinking from a fire hose at the start. But I got to stop you real quick. I can't take the credit. I have phenomenal people
I agree.
both in the South region and North region that they work their butts off. They care. They have a passion for the work we do. And that's key, right? These guys and these women in our unit, they care about what they do. Our unit chief is phenomenal.
Yes, he is.
When he came on board, he gave us magnitude, a direction. And that's when we really started seeing, a lot of results. Because suddenly, everyone could just focus on their mission at hand. He took care of a lot of the stuff that, the folks in the field didn't need to be worrying about, and provided them with the tools they needed, and including working with you guys on putting some more tools in their tool bag. So we've got great people that in the unit, and there are great people in law enforcement that work in Indian country as well. I don't want anyone to feel like, any of our partner agencies that we work with, to feel like, the our unit's existence is, some kind of judgment on them and their work. It's not. It's absolutely not. It's 100% because of the needs, right? I mean, it's tough. I mean, I've worked with some phenomenal investigators from other agencies in my career working in Indian country, and I learned from a lot of them. I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it weren't for my interactions with a lot of them. But the more resources we can pour into this, the better. And that's something that the Secretary's office has really prioritized, and I'm really thankful to them for that. Secretary Holland has been great to us.
Yeah, and look, Jack and Angie, this is the goal, and look what's happening already. Wishing you the best in helping and solving these issues. Okay? And we all know that it's the public, as they engage with BIA, to have, even if it's an anonymous 411 call, it could mean the difference between, that one little piece of information that you've been waiting for, right? And now all of a sudden it comes together. So let's go. Are you okay with go ahead, say.
Yeah, can you give me just 1 minute, Chris? I apologize. I had too much water earlier. Give me just a second. I'll be right back.
Yes, and I'll set up while you're doing that. Go ahead.
Sure, perfect. Sounds good.
Yes. So, guys and gals, if you're just joining with us tonight, we have the regional agent in charge of the missing and murdered unit for the BIA and Indigenous people that are missing, women and men and children, Justin Hooper. And as you can tell, he and his supervisor, the unit chief, they're just amazing people. And the rest of his team have been absolutely just phenomenal. And over the last week, I've been up here working with them and, doing some training. And these guys are in sync right now. They are clicking at 250 miles an hour. And it's so neat to see for the first time in history, a group of Native Americans from various tribes across this country come together to investigate these cases as a unit. And it's so important and so necessary. There's an estimate, of about 1,500 women, and if not more than, I think, over 5,000 estimate up in Canada. I may be a little bit off on that number. So it's, but it's big. It's huge. And, his team is taking it on, and they're doing it in, what's the old saying? How do you eat an elephant? Right? One bite at a time.
One at a time.
And he's back, and so great to have you here. And by the way, if I also want to give you a little update. This is kind of a little offside here. You'll notice Buddy's not in the background here. He was having a little breathing difficulty. So Karen and I had to rush him to the vet. And they're going to keep him overnight for observation. So please keep him in your prayers. We love that little guy. Okay, so I think you answered this one from this old nurse. Will this be in Canada? I think you kind of touched on that.
Yeah, I don't know. And I'm sorry I don't have an answer for you better than that. I know that there are some great law enforcement folks up there in Canada that we've connected with on a few of the referrals that we've gotten, and they care deeply and they work really hard. I'm not sure what the Canadian government is going to do with their law enforcement, if they're going to create any units specialized to work in this field. I imagine probably at some point something's coming, but I don't know for sure. But there are great investigators in Canada, and if you have any referrals, for them, please reach out to them. I know the Royal Canadian Mounted Police have some phenomenal investigators. We've worked with a few of them. I think I mentioned earlier Windsor has a great department there, and they've got some phenomenal investigators. So please, if you have information related to any cases or you have any referrals for them, reach out to them.
Here's a comment. Why, when someone moves from the reservation and becomes missing, they don't get reported? If
yeah, that's a good question. Sometimes they are. Not every time that someone goes missing is it a case where their family, has lost contact with them. A lot of times they are reported right away. But, like adults make adult decisions, and adults have that freedom to do so, right? So, when people move from community to community when they're adults, sometimes they lose contact with friends and families. You know what I mean? Time passes by, especially if somebody is, suffers from homelessness. They live on the streets. Maybe months will go by between. It's just harder to have regular contact with their family in those cases because they don't necessarily have the means to have daily contact. It's not like where I call my mom. I talk to my mom a couple times a week. My mom's an amazing person. So I had to put that plug out there. But not everyone has those means.
Say hi to your mother because she'll never forgive me.
Yeah, I know she's watching. So. But not everyone has those means, so sometimes it's months or weeks between contact with their family. And then suddenly 2 months becomes 4 months, becomes a year, becomes 2 years. And, the family doesn't necessarily know, whether this person's alive or not. And that, so we get a lot of delayed reports like that. Other law enforcement agencies get a lot of delayed reports like that. That's one aspect to it. And bear in mind, it's not just Native people. I mean, this goes for,
right.
All races. They all have a lot of similar issues. It just, it seems to be a bigger problem for Indian country.
Okay. So the next question from Mimi J2, what percentage of missing go missing directly from reservations, if you know?
I don't know. That's a really good question. I would actually like to know the answer to that myself. I guess I don't know for sure. We have a large Native population, obviously, that lives off the reservation. We have hub cities, for the tribes in South Dakota where I come from. Rapid City and Denver and Minneapolis are hub cities. For a lot of the tribes in Montana, it can be Billings, it can be Spokane, Washington and Oregon, it could be Seattle, Portland, Spokane, Idaho, Nevada, and Utah could be Salt Lake City. So, a lot of times folks moved away years ago and were living in these communities, and then they disappeared from those communities. So it's so hard to get an accurate count on that.
So, Positive Parker asked, from your opinion, what can they do to help all of us out here continue to raise awareness? Is that one of the principles? What else would you guys, BIA, like to see?
Check on your family members, check on your friends. If a lot of these issues, a lot of these missing persons cases, and frankly, a lot of these homicide cases, the act itself, may happen, at one point, but there's always a series of events that lead up to it. And, if you can get intervention before that point when something bad happens, you can have a positive outcome. You can keep something from like this that happens. The other thing I would suggest is, spread the word. Share the information that Chris and I have given you in this podcast, that Chris has posted in his podcast. Get that information out there. In a lot of these cases, there are people that have information. There are people that know, and maybe they're reluctant to talk to us, for whatever reason, or maybe they don't know what they saw. And so when they see the links, when they see the emails, when they see the posters that are out there, maybe some piece of information resonates with them and motivates them, or jars a memory. Who knows? But the more awareness that there is out there, I think, the better. And then finally, I guess another major piece of the awareness part of it is, the more people talk about the work that's being done, and it's not just us, and I don't want to make it sound like we're the only ones doing it. We're not, there are a lot of great agencies, there are a lot of great people, a lot of great investigators in the country that are vested in this and that are working hard for it. That if we can get some of these other agencies to maybe know who we are and know who they are, maybe we'll get better cooperation in the future.
So are tribal police the first layer of Ellie on a reservation?
A lot of times, yeah.
That's a good question. That's a good question.
Yeah, it depends on the reservation. Some of them, so like we mentioned, the BIA has some direct service programs. So it's either the tribal police or us. If you're in a 280 or self-governance state, it might be the tribal police or the county sheriff's office or local police departments. But there's usually when we're talking Indian country, we're talking reservations, we're talking tribal police or BIA.
Awesome. Let's see. Share it on your social media platforms. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. It's long overdue. And this is why if you're just joining us again, Justin here for the BIA, he is the regional agent in charge of the murder and missing unit. And, the first thing I know he would say, and I'm going to put words in your mouth, is keep sharing this and raise the awareness on social media. Social media has changed the game. So, please bring awareness. I mean, many people have suffered in silence, just like Mississippi Girl has said here. And you've got a huge shout out and thank you, buddy, for that one. Share this all on your social media things. So, J-Lo says, are the families of missing pushing Ellie for the cases to be solved, or do they tend to give up hope because they feel no one cares? That's a great question.
It's a great question. I can't speak of all law enforcement in that regard. I know that there are some families that have been beyond frustrated with the response they've gotten from us and law enforcement. And again, I'm not going to absolve the BIA of all total responsibility and make it sound like we've never messed up on these. I think every law enforcement agency has, to be frank.
Yeah, every law enforcement agency ever. Yeah.
But I would say in my experience, the majority of the time, the family never gives up hope, or they don't give up trying. Right. I mean, I think at some point maybe some of them resign themselves to the fact that they know their loved one is probably deceased. But they don't give up the hope of being reunited, at least, being able to bring that person home and burying them with their family, with their ancestors. So I don't know that I've ever seen a situation where the family's given up. It feels like in a lot of cases, the family remains resolute in bringing some kind of resolution to that case. And it may not always be the resolution that they want, but by and large, I'd say the families are committed 100% and definitely pushing law enforcement to continue working these cases, to continue to try to solve these cases.
So this is a 10-year question from Manon. How many folks went missing, let's say, within the last 10 years, if you know?
I don't know. I don't have an exact number. A lot, unfortunately, but I can't give you an exact number.
Do you work with Cheyenne and Navajo nations?
Yes. That's one partnership we really, my partner down in the South, Barry Oyema, he covers the South region, which includes Navajo Nation. I know he has one of our agents is Navajo. She's a citizen of the Navajo Nation.
I love that gal.
Yeah, she's good. She's smart. She's really smart.
Really
totally
smart.
Dedicated. Yeah, she's one of those ones we got to say, you might want to take some time off. You maybe go hang out with your family for a bit. No, she's great. We love having her in the unit. But Barry and her have done some great work in building those relationships with Navajo Nation. And there are a lot of cases that unfortunately have come from Navajo.
Let's see here. Does every tribe have a liaison media for more coverage? That's a great question.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I guess I couldn't answer that for sure. I know a lot of tribes do have some type of public information person that works for their tribe, works for tribal government. But I guess I don't really have a good answer for that. Sorry.
That's okay. How's DNA playing into this?
Um, you know, we work a lot with Chris. You want to explain NamUs to your folks? NamUs is a the National Missing Unidentified. I can't remember. I'm sorry. I'm terrible. I'm tired. But NamUs basically is an organization that works with law enforcement, works with families, and has a database of missing persons and unidentified remains, right? And it works as like a repository. So we get information on missing persons cases. We enter that information into NamUs. Families enter the information into NamUs. So where we work with DNA probably the most as of right now is with NamUs. We do a lot of familial DNA searching where we'll get referred a missing persons case. Mostly with these, we'll go to the family, either ourselves directly or law enforcement contact in that area. We'll go to the family. They'll get try to get the closest related person they can to the missing person, get a DNA sample from them, send it off for, yes, thank you, Dr. Martin. Thank you. You're a lifesaver. Send that off to get a match. So then that will be in the NamUs's database, is that person's familial DNA profile. And then if we get possible matches in the future, we find unidentified remains, or we find someone that may be this person, we can take a DNA sample from them and send it in, and then get find out if it's a relative of that person, if it's a match, whatever. It takes a little more work, obviously, to get a positive identification, but that's probably where I would say we do the most work with DNA. Keep in mind, we've only been around for 2 years, so I anticipate that we're going to have more opportunities in the future to maybe work, forensically on some of the unsolved cases. We just haven't had as many. There have been a few, but not as many opportunities to do that yet.
So this is an interesting comment from Reed Deeply. Folks weren't involved in the national census, and so it's kind of this enigma, right? I mean, the people just they don't exist.
Right. So, yeah, that's the census. For those of us who grew up in Indian country, remember when people were walking around knocking on the door, trying to do the census. I really don't know how accurate the census is. I can tell you it's not even probably 90%. There was a lot of people that just didn't respond to the census. So the counts are always, that's a joke on the reservation, right, where I grew up. They said there's about 25,000 people that live on the reservation, and everyone's like, nah, it's at least double that. It's tough. I wish more people participated in the census so we had a more accurate account, but I get it too. I understand, people were a little leery of giving their information to people they don't know, especially in Indian country, given the history that has existed there between the federal government and the tribes. But I would have to agree. It's probably not the most accurate, but I know they try hard. The census folks, they try really hard to try to get as accurate a count as they possibly can.
Yeah, Yanni says that there's a couple problems with folks leaving the res and never returning, right? That folks aren't just necessarily coming onto the res and snatching people, but you're dealing with this on a national level. It's just not a regional level. So there are some cases where both of that is taking place, right? And even sometimes the tribal police are a little bit different, but you guys all try to work connectively and try to keep things together, right?
Yeah, obviously we are such a small agency. We would be limited in our capabilities. We're limited in our capabilities. We'd be even more so, almost, I would say, ineffective if it weren't for the relationships that we can build, right? So we work hard with our tribal partners. Tribal law enforcement, they've got some great folks. They really do. In fact, a lot of times our agents come from tribal law enforcement agencies. I started as a tribal officer. There are a lot of them that have started as a tribal officer and worked and then eventually came over to the BIA. So, we work hard with them. We share intel with them. We get intel from them. anytime there's an instance where we suspect foul play, like a kidnapping or whatnot, we work with the FBI on those. We notify them. And it happens. It does happen. I've seen some comments here, people talking about human trafficking. Of course, that occurs in Indian country. But I've seen a few people talk about this, and I would have to agree. I think, I couldn't give you a percentage, but a good portion of it is people leaving the reservation on their own, disappearing from the reservation or disappearing off the reservation. But, unfortunately, making some choices in their lives that, and then they're not seen, we don't, that's the part, is figuring out what happened, where are they, and that's what we do. That's what we're here for. And some of those, we've had some successes where we found them. We were able to go find them and get them located and at least get them in contact with their family, if only temporarily, at least for that moment, their families knew that they were okay. So, unfortunately, it is a big issue. And I don't mean to downplay those other instances, because they definitely happen too. But, that's probably a good number of our cases are like that.
So bring everybody up to speed, Justin, real fast, because I've kept you for an hour now and 15 minutes. Tell everybody your background real fast for the folks that have just joined us, because folks come and go, and we've got some really great people here now. Tell everybody your background, what your team is doing, and how it's kind of came from Operation Lady Justice.
Sure. So, like Chris mentioned, I'm the regional agent in charge for the Bureau of Indian Affairs, Office of Justice Services, Missing and Murdered Unit. I grew up in Pine Ridge, South Dakota, on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. I'm a member of the Oglala Sioux Tribe, the Oglala Lakota Nation. I've been in law enforcement for close to 20 years now. The bulk of that in investigations. When Operation Lady Justice was formed in 2019 as part of an executive order to address missing and murdered Indigenous persons, our unit was created. At that time, the goal was to work with the Operation Lady Justice in creating, I would say, a multiple multidisciplinary team to review cases as they came in and staff them. It was based off some research that had been done on how to work cold case murders. In 2020, when Secretary Holland came into office, the Operation Lady Justice went through some changes as well. But we sort of diversified our mission to also include missing persons cases. Now, we were looking at missing persons cases prior to this, but we weren't really getting involved with acute or fresh missing persons cases. The bulk of the missing persons cases we worked at that time were unsolved or cold missing persons cases, as well as cold homicides. So at that point, we went from the cold case unit to the missing and murder unit, which is what we are today. As part of our duties working acute cases as well as cold cases, we've tried to do a better job of branching out and building relationships, partnerships with other agencies, because frankly, no agency can take that task on without collaborating and cooperating and communicating with our law enforcement partners in other areas. So that's kind of the 30,000 foot view of our unit. We've been in, like I said, in existence from since 2019. Really been operational a little over 2 years, but we're growing. We're hoping to add 20 more positions here soon, agent positions here soon. And who knows where we go from there, but we're not going anywhere. I like our future. I think we've had some success early on, and I think we're gonna have a lot more success coming up.
Yeah, and I just absolutely commend your boss, BIA, you're just the folks that finally somebody Well, what's really cool here, and I think there's another piece here, that this information, folks, if you need to share this information, this is a huge problem. a huge problem. And Justin is just the tip of the spear. His team has been assembled for the first time in history from all the different tribes around, the tribal reservations and the Native American people who have finally come together. Everybody is coming together. They work together. I've had the honor to stand in front of them and kind of guide some things, but they're doing it. And this guy right here that you're looking at right there, that guy is the leader, one of the leaders. His whole team is leaders. He'll tell you that. Okay, but he's been selected to be the guy that's out there making it happen. And this is really, really important. Like read deeply here for an example. Thank you so much. But yeah, for having Justin here, but it goes to Justin because, and thank you for saying that. But really, this is a huge issue here in North America and all of America. And this is their land. This belongs to. When you and I sat down, what was the first thing I said? I came from Europe.
Yeah.
You're Sioux. You're Sioux, and you have an amazing story. I know you're not going to share it here, but at this, and I wouldn't ask you in totality, but what Justin is doing is everybody is working together. And what we need to do now from a public's perspective is two things. We need to share this. We need to send amazing positive vibes to family. If you know somebody who knows something, let them share it. All the links are below to where they can report it anonymously. And Justin's guys. And then the other thing we need to do is if you have a relative in law enforcement and they're working in conjunction with any of these reservations, you need to tell them to also continue to move forward in the right direction, because this problem needs to be addressed on a very large, in a very large way. And here is the support. Go ahead, Justin. I'm sorry I said too much.
No. That you're fine. Thank you, Chris, for the opportunity. I know when we talked about this the other day, I wasn't sure if we were going to be able to make this happen or not. So I definitely want to thank our leadership for allowing us to do this, for allowing us to take this opportunity, for the Secretary's office for supporting us and giving us the green light and doing this, and for your listeners for taking the time to watch and listen and share. Thank you all so much. I know one of the things that you talk about is how we don't solve cases, the public solves cases, and that's 100% true, especially in cold cases. We really, truly do survive off of information that we get from the public and the support we get from the public. So, and it means a lot. The last couple of years have been hard, especially in law enforcement. Any country has been no different. We all feel that hurt. So, to build those relationships and to feel that support again, it's good. It helps build morale. And I know my team, they're all shy. None of them want to, talk about what they do, the great things they do. So I'll do it for them. They're phenomenal people, phenomenal agents, and they deserve the support. And same with the South Region folks. It's great people doing, tremendous work, hard job, and they really, truly do sacrifice a lot to try to bring resolution to these cases. And I know that in our unit we work hard to recognize them for that work. So, but the support that they get from you all and the things that they get from you all is amazing. It really is.
Yeah, you're very well said, my friend. Very well said. And so here's a commitment from the interview room. Okay. I am going to create a whole segment where I'm going to go to your website. I'm going to start looking at some of those cases, and I'm going to start putting those as individual segments. And if you guys ever get jammed and you need information from the public without ever going over details of a case, that, Okay, because I number one, I would never compromise. As you know me, you've seen me in the classroom. Okay, I will never compromise a case. However, I will always provide your team and anybody who needs a platform to communicate with the public, it honestly and right in terms of information that is needed. If you guys ever want it to come up here, you're always invited. This is an open invitation. And then I'd love to get some of these other folks, who are really deep into these issues. Like I see Reed deeply here, and others who are deep into this issue. I think it would be very cool to keep raising the awareness on this. And the TIR is we're gonna take it to that point. So okay, so I have a tradition, last tradition. Unfortunately, when I was a kid, no, I'm teasing. My dad was in the Marine Corps, and he fought in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam, and we traveled all over the country. But the majority of where we lived was Hawaii, and so I have a closing song where I take everybody to Hawaii. But before we do that, okay, I always give my guest, and that's you, okay, the final word. And so whatever comes to your heart, it's just going to be you and the audience. And then when you're done, I'm going to hit the Hawaiian button. So hang on for a minute. So are you ready for the final word, buddy?
I'm ready.
Okay, it's all yours.
Again, thank all of you so much. Your encouragement has been awesome. I've been trying to keep up with the comments as they go. I've seen a lot of people asking how they can support. We're a federal agency, so your tax dollars support us. And we try to be accountable to that. So, if you want to contribute, your volunteer work for any of the non-government organizations out there that are working with MMIP groups, please, feel free to do so. The biggest thing you can do for us is spread the awareness. You see our website there. Share that link with people. Let's try to get that thing as far reaching as we possibly can. And if you have any information, please, speak up, say something, share that information. If it is involving an MMIP case, more than welcome to reach out to us and talk to us. If not, get a hold of your local law enforcement. And one thing I would ask of all of you, the next cop you see, pat them on the back, tell them thank you, tell them you appreciate them. And, it goes a long way. All of us that have been in law enforcement, especially those of us who have been in for, any amount of time, we can tell you, we don't do it for thanks. We don't do it for, awards, congratulations, pats on the back, but it feels good. And it helps us, stay motivated and reminds us of why we do the job. So thank you all so much. You've been a great, amazing audience. And thank you, Chris, for this opportunity. We're so thankful for the chance to discuss our unit. And we're real big fans of the work you do. So thank you all.
Hard working every day, I'm stressed out 24/7, babe. No timeouts, wish we could fly away. You and I go to our favorite place. Oh yeah, make special memories together. I'll be your company now and forever. I say we fly away, you and me. taking away. Yeah, we're taking away. Don't hesitate now. We're taking away. Yeah, we're taking away. We'll never come down. We're going away. Yeah, we're going away. You and me. Feeling the sun on my face in a while.